Hello and welcome back. So in this lecture, we are going to work on the delete course functionality in our application. So what we want is, we have this delete button for each of the course. So whenever this delete button is clicked, we simply want to delete that course from the courses state. So here we have the courses state, which is storing all the courses of our application. Now for whichever course the delete button has been clicked, that should be removed from this courses array. Let's see how we can achieve that. So for that, again, we don't need to create any state, but we are going to create an action. So here, let me copy this, let me paste it here, and I'm going to call this action as delete course. And let's also go ahead and let's specify a name for this, a type for this action. So we are calling it as delete course. Here in the props, we are simply going to get the ID of the course. This ID should be of number type. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's create a reducer for this delete course action. Let's go to courses.reducers.ts, and there let's create a reducer function using this on method. Here we are going to create a reducer function for delete course. So we are going to import it and pass it as the first argument of this on method. Then in the second argument, we are going to pass a callback function from where we are going to return a new state, and this callback function is going to receive the current state and the payload. So I'm going to call it as action. Now in the new state, we want to extract all the properties of the current state, and there we want to override the courses state, and to that we want to assign a new array, and in that new array the deleted course should not be there. Now how are we going to create that new array? For that, what we are going to do is we are going to create a new array. I'm going to call it as updated array. You can name it anything. Now I'm calling it as updated array because in this array we will not have the deleted course. Now to remove the deleted course from the courses array, what we are going to do is, here we have the current state, there we have this courses state. We are going to loop over it using filter method. Okay, and from within this filter method, we are only going to return those states whose ID does not match the ID of the deleted course. Here, this filter method is going to receive a callback function, and that callback function will receive the course object for each iteration because we are looping over the courses array. So I'll simply call it as COR in short. And what we are going to do is, here we are going to check if the current course ID is equal to the ID which we are receiving in the payload. Okay, then we don't want to return that course and add it to the updated array. So here, instead of equal to, I'll simply say not equal to. So any course whose ID does not match the ID which we are receiving in the payload, that course will be added in the updated array. And any course which matches the ID which we are receiving in the payload, that means that course is the one which we are trying to delete from the UI. So that course will not be added in this updated array. And in this way, this updated array will have only those courses which has not been deleted. So I'm going to use this updated array and I'm going to assign it to this courses state. And in this way, our reducer is also created for this delete course. Now we just have to dispatch this delete course action. Now when do we want to dispatch this delete course action? Whenever this delete button is clicked. For that, let me go ahead and let me close these files. Let's close this action file and the reducer file. And that delete button we have inside this course card component. So in the course card component, if I go to the HTML of the course card component, here we have that delete button. On this delete button, I'm going to bind click event, and here I'm going to assign a method on delete clicked. You can call this method anything. Now I'm going to create this method in the component class. So let's go to course card component.ts, and there I'm going to call that method. And all we are going to do from within this method is we are going to dispatch the deleteCourse action. So here I'm simply going to say this dot store dot dispatch, and I want to dispatch the deleteCourse action. For that, I'm going to import it. And when we are deleting the course, we are going to pass the course ID. So here I'm going to pass an object where I'm going to have an ID property, and that I'm going to assign it with, here we have the course object. So here I'll say course.id. So it should be this dot course.id. So the selected course ID we are passing to this deleteCourse action. So that ID will be passed to the reducer, and based on that, it is going to delete that course. Let's save the changes and let's test this functionality. So when I click on this delete button, you see that course has been deleted. That simply means that initially we had two courses in this courses state, right? When I clicked on the delete button of the second course, this reducer function was called, and there it did not filtered that deleted course and it did not added it in the updated array. So now in the new state, this courses array has only one course object, and that is being rendered here. If I also delete that, then we do not have any course in the courses state. So nothing is being rendered. If I refresh the page, those two courses will come. So in this lecture, we learned how to update a state which is storing an array and how to delete elements from that array. So for that, we use the filter method to filter only those elements which satisfies a condition. In the same way, in the last lecture, when we wanted to update an element of an array, we used this map method. Using this map method, we updated an element of the array. So this is how, whenever you want to perform an update operation, you can use map method, and whenever you want to perform a delete operation, you can use this filter method. Now there is one more thing which I want to do. So currently if we go to our application and when I click on the delete button, it is directly going to delete that course. But instead of directly deleting it, first we want to show a confirm message to the user, asking for the confirmation from the user whether he really wants to delete that course or not. And if he says okay, then only we will delete the course. So this is one good practice we should follow when deleting something. So let's go back to VS Code, and there let's go to course card component.ts, and from within this on delete clicked method, we are dispatching the delete course action. But before dispatching this action, what we are going to do is let's create a variable. Let's call it confirm. Okay, and here we are going to use JavaScript confirm model window. And in here, we are going to say, do you really want to delete this course? Okay, now this confirm function, this is going to return us a Boolean value, either true or false. And here we have this error because we have the same name as the variable. So here I'm going to call it as do delete. Okay, so this is going to return us a Boolean value. We are going to check if that Boolean value is true. So if this do delete is true, then we will go ahead and we will dispatch delete course action in order to delete a course. Otherwise, we will do nothing. So let me write that inside this if statement. Let's save the changes. Let's go back to our application. And now when I click on the delete button, first it should show this confirm window where it says, do you really want to delete this course? If I say cancel, it will not delete that course. But if I click on OK, then only it is going to delete that course. Okay. So in this lecture, we implemented the delete functionality, and we implemented this functionality using NgRx Store. That means using NgRx state and reducer. So this is all I wanted to cover in this lecture. If you have any questions from this lecture, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.